What's going on, guys? Briar Rabbit here. Today I want to talk about raid loot. I want to talk about the way this system works and how it can be really frustrating to players. I'm going to be doing a little bit of complaining during this video, so prepare yourself for that. So let's just jump right into it here. Raid loot, the way it drops is a little bit different than it's been in the past. In previous raids, when you got a piece of gear from the raid, it dropped at always the same light level. And in fact, it was actually the only way to hit max level in both Vanilla Destiny and in the Dark Below. Now, it's a little bit different. When you get a raid drop, it can be a variable light level. It can be, let's say hard mode raid, it can be from 310 to 320. So the difference here is that, you know, let's say you're looking for a helmet. I've always been looking for a helmet. I've yet to have a helmet drop for any of my three characters. Even though I've run all three characters through the raid every week, I've yet to have a helmet drop. So that's the first piece of RNG involved in a raid drop. And it can be frustrating, but you kind of know that eventually that helmet will drop for you. And hopefully when it does, it's got good rolls, but you know, eventually it's going to drop for you. Now for me, it's never dropped, but you know, that's just bad luck on my part. Now, the other part about this is the light level that helmet drops at. So let's say you get the helmet to drop at 312 from the hard mode raid. There's another piece of RNG there, and that is that light level. So you might be hoping to get your character up to a higher light level. Let's say 318, 319. Start making this hard mode raid a little more achievable. Start getting ready for the challenge modes on the raid. But the RNG is holding you back. Let's say you got a 312 helmet right off the bat. The first time you got a helmet, it was 312. And then the second time you got a helmet, it was 312 again. And then the third time you got a helmet, it was 311. This is really the system that frustrates me the most right now inside the raid. When you consistently are getting drops of the same gear that you had before, but at lower light levels. This really makes the raid feel like a grind. It makes it feel really unrewarding. So this is actually happening to me right now with Quillem's Terminus, right? The first time I went through the raid, I got a 312 version of the Quillem's Terminus. The second time I went through the hard mode raid, I got a 311 version. The third time, I got a 310 version. And actually, I've received the Quillem's Terminus, the Harrowed Quillem's Terminus, 5 times from the raid. Each time, it's been at 312 or lower. And that's really frustrating because you would think that, you know, you got 5 opportunities to get this gun. Why doesn't it ever drop at above 312 light level? That can be really frustrating. Also, I've never gotten the sniper rifle. I've run through the hard mode 6 times, as many times as available, and I've never gotten the sniper rifle. Actually, running through the normal mode, I've only gotten it once. That doesn't really bother me as much as the fact that when I do get it, if it drops at 310, that's not helpful. I already have a 310 sniper rifle from the raid. It's just white instead of black. These things, you know, the adding up of the different levels of RNG in this raid, it can be really frustrating because not only are you hoping for a specific drop, but you're also hoping that that dice roll on that drop to give you light level is higher than it was previously. And that's kind of what I don't like. Now, there's an argument to be made for this, right? Is it extends the length of the raid, right? It extends the life of how long this raid will be viable because not only are you waiting for specific drops like a helmet for me, but you're also waiting for those drops to come with high light level. But I would argue this is a really frustrating way to extend the life of the raid because basically you can go through an entire raid and not only do you never get anything you want, but if you do get something that you really want, let's say the helmet, but it drops at a really low light level, then it's basically useless to you. And that kind of stinks. So this is kind of what I'm thinking about with the raid right now, and I'm not real sure how to fix it. If they said, okay, so if you get the helmet, it will drop at the exact light level you are now or higher, that would be helpful, I think. If you were guaranteed drops that at least dropped at the light level you are instead of a lower light level than you are currently. So if you got to 312 and all the drops you got from the raid at 312 or 312 or higher, it'd be almost guaranteed progression for you. So you'd always feel like you're getting at least a little something out of the raid. You may not get, straight 320 drops all the way through, but you'd at least feel like you were making progression. If you were at 318, maybe all the drops are 318 or above. Now, the only thing about this is that, yes, it would definitely shorten the lifespan of the raid, but I think that the raid would feel like a much more rewarding experience. Every time you got a drop, you'd almost always be excited. Even if you got a drop on a weapon that you already had, if it was equal or greater light, then you could at least use it to infuse the weapon that you like using, or something that you got from the gunsmith, or something that was just a random drop that you really enjoy. But the way it is now, it doesn't feel like these weapons are worth much of anything, and most of the weapons that I'm getting now from the raid, especially on normal mode, are basically useless. They get deleted because there's not a whole lot that I need to upgrade at this point that isn't already up to those lower levels. 310, 311, 312. So it's been frustrating. It's been really frustrating for me. When I get armor drops, they all seem to be at, 310, 311. When I get new weapons, they seem to be at 310, 311, 312. And that's really frustrating because I want to make progression. I'm looking forward to getting into those challenge modes. Even in the normal mode raid, I was experiencing the same thing. I was never getting the helmet to drop, so I was limited to what gear I could actually use because I had to use an exotic helmet. Otherwise, I was really missing out on light level. Exotic helmets, as you know, can drop at 310. I had no raid helmets, so the highest helmet I had was sitting at like 290. 299, depending on characters. I just couldn't use a legendary helmet. I had to use an exotic helmet. And that's basically still the case. I'll be running kind of odd setups with supers that don't match the gear I'm using just because I'm forced to use an exotic helmet that I don't necessarily want to use. If I'm using a Sunbreaker Titan in the raid, I'd like to be using a exotic that kind of matches up to that Sunbreaker, possibly the Immolation Fist. But the way it sits now, I can't do that because it'll drop my light level too low. Now, I realize that my opinion here is really biased by, my experience in the raid and getting unlucky drops. And, I have gotten unlucky drops. There's no doubt about it. The gear that's dropped for me has come at like basically the minimum light level that it can drop at, with very few exceptions. I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. How has your experience been with the raid loot drops? Now, everybody's going to have different luck, right? RNG, it's going to bless some of us sometimes and it's going to curse some of us other times. So some people are just going to have positive experiences because they've gotten really good loot drops. Other people are going to have a bad opinion on this because they've gotten bad loot drops. But how do you feel? Do you feel like it really extends the life of the raid? Do you feel like it's frustrating? Tell me in the comments below, like, what you guys really think about this system. I'm a little frustrated with it. We got challenge mode that's expected to come fairly shortly. And I feel like I'm not ready for challenge mode. I'm at the minimum I feel acceptable on all my characters to run hard mode, and I haven't made any progression. Now, this week we've got another set of 3 raids. Hopefully these 3 raids will actually net me some good gear. I'd really like to get the helmet. I'd really like to get some decent gear out of these 3 raids that are coming up this week. But, with challenge mode kind of looming, we don't know when it's going to come. I'd like to, be able to compete for world's first on one of those modes. And as it sits now, I don't feel competitive at all. I feel like I'm jumping into hard mode at 301 or 302 light as opposed to like 308 light. Obviously, if you jump in to hard mode for your first time at 308 light, you're going to find it much easier than if you jumped in at 302. Or if you jumped into normal mode at 392, you're going to find it much harder than if you dropped into it at 398. But these drops, they're just kind of holding me back. I don't feel like I can be a competitive player in the PvE sense with this kind of random luck. And I don't like that is up to just randomness and the luck of the drop. So I'd like to feel like there's some kind of progression every time I ran the raid. I don't need it every time, but at least net over the week, I feel like there should be some kind of progression net for the entire week of raiding. And, for the last 2 weeks, I really don't feel like that's been the case. In fact, there's been raids where I come out of it and I really have nothing at all to show for it other than, you know, some good times spent with my friends, which is valuable too. So let me know down in the comments what you guys think. I'm really interested to hear if you kind of agree with my opinion on this, or if I'm an outlier and I'm just bitter from getting bad drops, if I just get some sour grapes in my mouth from getting terrible drops and having bad RNG. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and that's going to do it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for listening to me rant about loot drops. I really appreciate it. Getting off my chest, it's like having a therapy session here. That's going to do it, though. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.